Peewee.
This is it.
This is it. So we've talked about a lot of stuff. There's one thing we haven't really talked about. That's when you went out of the club, your son decided that he was going to go with you. From what I understand from people that I've talked to, he didn't have to, but he did. And then it caused problems between you guys.
Well, that wasn't the thing that caused a problem between us. The day I decided, like I told you, the day I decided to quit, when I stood up, I said, okay, I'm done. When I asked the room, if they thought I messed up, when I told the cops it was self-defense, they're being a bunch of assholes. Just because, like I said, that George the Rat was trying to take over the charter. Mm-hmm. He was campaigning what they call behind your back, which is common in the club there, So when I asked the room, and majority of the room said, oh yeah, we think you messed up. So I stood up, I took my patch off, and I never talked to Brad about it. And he, I never talked to him saying, hey, I'm going to do this. I didn't say nothing to him. So the kid was in the dark. He didn't know what was going on.
Did you look at his face? Did you look at him when you were doing it at all?
No, you know what? I didn't want to look at his face when I was doing it because I didn't know if he would take it hard or what. So he sat down the table on the right side at the very end of the table from me. And when I stood up and I took the patch off, I laid it on the table. I said, it was on a Tuesday, I believe. And I said, I'll bring all my stuff in Thursday. I'll package all my Angel stuff and I'll bring it in. And Brad stood up and he says, well, he said, I'm gonna quit too. And they said, well, hey, Brad, you don't have to. And he said, no, I'm going to quit because I know you guys are going to start talking shit about my dad. Yeah. And then I'm going to end up beating the shit out of all you guys, which he could have. So that's why he stepped down.
Yeah.
So actually he was doing it because he knew the shit that was going to start happening and the shit talking and the backstabbing, even though that happens mostly right in front of you when you're in the club.
Yeah.
But he knows how bad it was going to be once I left the club. And just to show you that that's the way it worked, I just told you it was Tuesday, and I said, hey, I'll bring all my stuff. Mm-hmm. After 15 years, I said, I'll bring all my stuff in Thursday. My word's my word. I don't give a shit who you are. When I tell you that, you can write it in the cement. So what made them turn around that night at 10:30, come beating on my door and said, oh, hey, George wants us to collect your shit tonight. I said, oh, it ain't happening, man, Mm-hmm. So that's what set off like a bad vibe between me and I shouldn't say the club because there was nobody else, but the punks in my charter doing it, George mainly, but
right, because I've talked to other charters. They've reached out to me to reach out to you to tell you, hey, man.
Oh, there was a lot of guys like I mean, it meant a lot like from Dago or anybody like that. It's especially a charter like that, I'm honored. Yeah. And brothers reaching out. I just had another brother reach out to me from England, and he said he left the club and he hit me up. And I told him, he said, I miss being your brother. And I told him, I said, man, we're still brothers. We're just not in the club anymore.
Yeah.
I can't remember what he looks like, if we were in the club at the same time together, but I get a enjoyment and a good feeling that I made a mark on that club and people's lives in a way where they get out of that club, first thing they do is call me.
Absolutely.
And it ain't, the organize and the New World Order and all that bullshit is what they would want you to think. What it boils down to is just guys wanting to, the camaraderie of a brotherhood,
Yeah. Yeah. And there's going to be no issue if they talk to you now. But there could have been, before they quit the club, obviously. We've seen that go down even lately between Doc and Bert. You talk to somebody who's out.
Yeah, I thought that would never have happened. Really, never, ever.
It's crazy.
But, you know, there's so many other ones that were before those guys, you know, it's just that, I don't know, man. You know, they'll do something for somebody, and then, like, you know, with the Sonny thing, they swept that right under the
Like
carpet.
JR from Richmond.
Oh, man.
Look what they did to him for just calling an ambulance for his wife.
Yeah, I didn't know all the particulars on that, but somebody that knows them, and, you know, that heard it firsthand called me and told me, and I was just like, wow. Kind of blew me away, you know. He was one of those guys they put up on a pedestal, you know, like Cisco and.
So, so you put your patch down, you walk out. What was that like, bro?
Oh, dude, like I said in my book, it was probably the hardest and longest walk I took, you know, because, you know, you walk from the upstairs, you go down the stairs, and I'm going out the door, and. You know, I could see, you know what I mean? I felt like, you know, like I was leaving a funeral or something, you know what I mean? I was pretty hurt, but I did it myself. And when I got out to my vehicle and stuff, I just sat there for a minute. And I was like, wow, man, I can't believe this just happened, you know? I mean, it's just like when you get the AFFA tattooed on you and you believe it. But I believe that's really only for somebody who's dead in the club, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then they're an angel forever, but otherwise than that, I don't believe in. I mean, you could probably ask Doc and Bert and those guys. They believe AFA.
Right.
FA stands for what it does. Sure ain't forever.
It just it seems like there's a shelf life in the club, and if you've surpassed that in age, they find a way. They find a way to get you on out of there. If God forbid, if you're not killed before. Or, you know, like Jethro or Steve Dawson, you know. Would they have tried to do this to either of those men?
No.
But they did it to you. You're the same stature.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't know what it is. Seriously, Rick, I think it's like a lot of these newer guys that are coming in the club, they don't even know me, are talking this shit. You know what I mean? And saying I'm this, I'm that. Well, I want to see it in person. When they see me, come up to my face and say it, and I don't give a shit how many people are there. It's on, you know?
Yeah.
But that's why I don't talk shit about the club. You know what I mean? When everybody thought I was going in there for the cops, I got tattooed on my neck right there, I hate cops, you know, and then fuck the cops. But everybody's like, so I turn it around when I tell those guys, oh, that means fuck the club. I would do that just to piss certain people, and actually one person. And he's not worth even mentioning his name. He's not in the club anymore. But
that's an amazing thing too. A lot of these guys who have politicked some of the biggest names out of this club, they're not even in the club anymore.
no, and this is one of those guys. So, you know, it didn't really matter to me what he thought. There's so many other good Hells Angels, good brothers that are still in that club, you know what I mean? That I hear from other people. Hey, I ran into so-and-so, and I said, hey, I know you're probably going to hate me or something because I know Peewee and I'm good friends with Peewee. And they said, hey, man, Peewee was one of the best Hells Angels I knew. I love that man. Right. And when I hear that,
I mean,
say big sissy, whatever you want to say, man, you know. But, I mean, it could cheer me up because in my heart, man, that dude meant a lot to me. And by him saying that means a lot again, you know. That's what I wanted out of the club, you know, the traveling, the camaraderie, the brotherhood. I did do the traveling,
you did,
and there are good brothers that I got out of that club. I really do.
Yeah.
So,
and
I'm not sorry I did it.
It seems like more and more, you know, my emails going off, they're finding you, and your plate's got to be pretty busy with people that are just coming and they're, hey, man, haven't talked to you in a while, but... You know?
I've been pretty quiet for 13 years, man. I haven't said nothing, so.
So Brad leaves with you.
Yeah, Brad left with me, and I knew that it hurt him deep down inside because he really, honestly, and I'm not saying this because he was my son. I'm telling you right now, being my son, if he was a shitty Hell's Angel, I'd say he wasn't that great of a Hell's Angel, but he was. You know, he got into it. He was one calling me when brothers from Canada or England flew in. He'd be like, hey, Dad, we're down here at the clubhouse grilling out. Come on down. Yeah. So I'd go down there, and he'd always ride next to me, and everywhere we went, I I had a better relationship with my son when we were in the club together, which is actually kind of sad, because since the whole shit went down in 2008, we got arrested in 2010. We were talking and everything, and in 2014 is when we got sentenced to prison. And he did 15 months, and then they kicked him loose.
Yeah.
I ended up doing the 3 years, and they kicked me loose. But he hasn't talked to me since.
Right. And
Since 2014, he hasn't talked to me.
just to be clear, whatever the disconnect is between you two, it's not that, like Brad, he fired off right away in the wedding shop. You went this way, he went that way. Bing, 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 like he wasn't, and it was his wedding. My personal opinion, which matters to nobody, is that's the life. You walk out, you see him. You know what you got to do.
It's on.
Do it.
It's on immediately. I mean, that's
that's
the way I always thought it was, and I would see like guys from other charters, I saw a bunch of those guys, but it wasn't the right place. Where the fuck is the right place?
Right. Exactly. It went down the way it should have. Even Johnny Boy sticking him. He was getting him, like he was doing what he's supposed to do.
Oh boy, yeah.
It got you guys in a lot more trouble, but if you think about it, he just came right in behind you. I got him, boss. Don't worry,
Yeah, he did the little pokes and out the door he ran. Yeah. And the guy I was fighting, so naturally I never saw him stick the guy I was fighting because I was fighting with him.
Right.
And then I thought, but then again, so much shit was happening so fast. I thought when I was like getting up off the floor, off the dude, I thought I saw him like stick the other guys up. But again, like I said, I thought I wouldn't, hold down to it. But it's like I said, when we did the thing with the cops, I said, man, I didn't see anything. I was busy getting down myself. And how funny, the guy has a knife, I don't, but I was the bad guy, he was the victim.
If they hadn't have been so busy trying to look into you in the club, maybe they would have caught the guy who was sending secret memos to the judge, sealed memorandums. There was a couple
that was
of
Squeak.
things that were
And I didn't know that until you said it.
I didn't know it until I read it. I'm if you do it in Vegas, I'm gonna find it.
And come on, Squeak, I didn't even think you were capable of writing a letter.
Like, who knows what it was? Who knows what it said?
Yeah.
But it was definitely sealed and sent to the judge. And, and I'm not here to badmouth any of them. I just, when I read your paperwork and I did all the research and I pulled all the interrogations, I'm like, well, I've been to prison and I've checked paperwork. If I had this in front of me, come on, let's go. We're good to go. Meet the fellas,
Yeah.
And the fact that the club was able to politic onto the yard to the youngsters, the A-dubs, because Rebel was upstate in Ely. I mean, it was a nightmare for you when you didn't do anything.
And it was just like, what I said right now about the Angels, have these new guys in talking shit, and they don't have a right to talk anything yet. They don't even have their noses wet. So talking all that shit, these young guys that were in A-dubs too, they were trying to make a name for themselves.
Absolutely, they were.
Because the older guys never really said jack shit to me.
Yeah.
Nothing like like stupid kid shit out there, and I don't know. But with Brad, I would see him every day. I would sit out in my yard, and he'd walk by, and I'd yell out to him, "Hey, son," He just waved to me and stuff like that. But it was kind of weird. But John would walk by the fence with his unit, and I'd be yelling out, "Hey, John, you punk!" And he'd just hide out in the crowd and shit like this, But yeah, it was pretty funny.
So all of the guys that I guess came together to vote you out bad after you had walked away.
All that was George. I think George is the one because he was running that charter at the time. He's the one that said, "Hey, I'm putting them out in bad."
So he has the ability by himself to do
Right?
that?
Yeah, because it's the charter.
Right.
Yeah, and he did that. And then later, like I said, from another brother, I don't mention names, but he was here visiting me, and he's from South Carolina. And he told me he was at one of the OMs, and one of the guys is the sergeant of arms from Long Island. He was sitting in there, and he said, "What are we gonna do with Peewee? You know, is it good or bad?" And I guess a guy stood up and said, "Hey, what's there to talk about? He's a snitch." And he said, and I read his paperwork. He's not a snitch. You know, all he did is talk to cops. He goes, "Well, there you have it. He talked to the cops," and he goes, "But he said, you know, not guilty. You know, I fired it." And they said, "Well, we'll put him out bad. I'm becoming of a Hell's Angel." If that's the worst they can do, the worst thing they did was burn me for 80 grand on the shop. That's probably the worst thing they could have done.
Right. That's,
Not even trying to make good for it, but
and you know,
I expected them to do that.
that's the catalyst behind it all.
Yeah.
That's why they put you out the way that they did. And whoever it was went to George and said, "Hey, look," you know, they probably didn't even let George know about it. You know, that he's just out there trying to be super Hell's Angel and
Are we George from the charter I was in?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I bet they played him to put you out bad so that they could keep their money and keep your money. And he had no idea about the money.
No, he didn't know about the money or anything. But yeah, he might have done that, but he mostly was looking out for himself. And like I said, when that private investigator came into my lawyer's office and talked to me, he wanted me to like give him all the names of all the people who were at the wedding so he could interview them, and I just basically told him I don't remember everybody that was there. But holy Christ, he started ripping off a whole name, a list of people, and I was like, "Man, where'd you get that?" Mondo told me. Well, yeah, Mondo tells the cops a lot of shit. He's the one that called the cops and told them everything that happened. So no matter if we had a trial or not, the cops already know what happened because Mondo told them. So
If I remember correctly, Mondo actually stayed back and tried to help.
he did.
Yeah.
He was kicking him in the face and doing all that shit. He got charged with it. But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I could go right now, Rick, and get my PSI
Oh, yeah.
and show it to you, and it'll show his name, Mondo. And he said Mondo called us and flagged us down to come to his shop, and he told us this is how it went down, and he ran it all down to him. And I was just like, wow, man, I can't believe he did that. And then there was another kid, Josh, who came to the wedding, and he was drunk. I read this in the PSI paperwork. He was walking down the street, and he saw a cop car, and he ran out there drunk and flagged it down and said, "Hey, man, I was at that Hell's Angel Mongol wedding. I want to tell you about it." And then he told too. So it was basically a win situation, bro.
Right.
And I don't hold no regrets. I never say, "Hey, you know, the club fucked me. I went to prison."
No.
I expected that. I don't blame anybody, and I would do it again tomorrow the same way.
I mean, the hardest part of it is watching them do this to you is like watching them do this to the men that they've been doing it to lately.
I know, and they got to stop doing that. But really, what they did to me, I was when they quit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they turned on me. They turned on me so quick, Rick. I mean, within 3 months, they turned on me. And I mean, I gave my all to that club.
Yeah. It was
And they knew it too.
yeah. It was greed, it was ambition from George, and then it was greed and money from your Sturgis partners, and that was that. You were gone.
That's I'm going to tell you right now. That's like the worst thing. And I say this in my book. Man, guys, you can change this, you know?
Yeah.
Go back to being a motorcycle club again, loving one another, going on these bike runs and having a good time. All these fucking corporate meetings and all this bullshit. Become a motorcycle club again.
Yeah.
And you know what? They would start liking each other, and maybe, you know what I mean? Some of these clubs would start getting along, so of all this fighting and shit, it's crazy. Because now with the RICO, you know it yourself, bro, we've both been in prison. The RICO's going to win every time, and they're going to start shutting these clubs down. I've talked to a lot of the older guys, and they said, man, they figure in 5 years most of these clubs will be shut down.
We're going to talk about that in just a second. I just got a phone call last night. You're going to it's getting way worse. But so, is there anything that you would want to say to Brad if you guys were on speaking terms? Like,
well, it's like I said, bro. It's getting better. I reached out to him 2 years ago, Christmas, and said I would buy a dinner and stuff, and he didn't show up. So I figured he didn't want to like reconnect with me, and for all the little bullshit things that he was saying when he was angry or pissed off at me, blaming me for wrecking his life for the club, he begged me to be in a club. And I could say that out there to every one of you guys who has your sons in the club with you. Think about it. What I didn't want is I didn't want my only son coming into a club where we've all seen tragedies on the highway when we're riding. And
how many members have lost sons?
Oh yeah, and members, getting shot and killed on the road or at an incident. When it's your only son, I didn't want that. So I told him, I don't want you in the club. That's the reasons I didn't want him. I would like to reconnect with my son, you know what I mean? As I'm getting older and 1 foot closer to that grave, I always say to myself, hey, I was waiting for him to reach out because I tried, and he didn't want to really reach out back, and now he's reaching out to me again. And I know he's not feeling well, and he's not doing well, and I feel bad about that. But in my heart, for some of the things that I'm not going to say, it's in my book. You can read it in the book. I don't want to say it now, but I feel like he owes me an apology. You know what I mean? For all the hateful things. I never went around saying any hateful shit about him ever. You know what I mean? He's my son. I love him. But, man, he said some, excuse my French, but some fucked up shit.
So if you imagine growing up, you're his hero, right? You got to be his hero.
Well, I thought it was at one time, you know what I mean? As when I was like teaching them how to wrestle and coaching these little wrestling. It was funny. I called them the Peewee, my Peewee squad. Little Peewee wrestlers from 1st grade to 7th grade, and I would teach these kids how to wrestle. You know what I mean? And he was in that class, and I took him to tournaments and all kinds of stuff. But
I think it goes beyond that. I think he got himself into the club, even though you didn't want him to come into the club.
And like I said, he was good for the club, and he was a good Hell's Angel.
Yeah.
But I knew it ripped him apart when he had to quit.
Yeah.
He didn't have to, but he did, and it was probably the right thing to do because they would have talked shit, and then he would have ended up, beating the shit out of whoever the hell needed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the reason why I didn't come back. When Sonny said, wait 6 months, I'll get you back in, I told him I don't want to come back in because everybody I heard in this ear that was saying shit about me, I'm just going to walk right up to you and say, hey, you got something to say now? Pow! I'm knocking you out, man.
And that's the way it should be, too, because I can't tell you how many members have told me, oh, I've heard the tape. I've heard the tapes, okay? I've seen the transcripts. Tell me what you heard that I didn't hear.
Yeah.
They swear because they go off of the lie of somebody they trusted that told them that.
Yep.
And so on and so forth. It's a snowball effect of one dude states it, and then 14,000 people are saying it, and it's like, hold on, guys. Reel it back in and just read it.
Right.
Read it. It's not there. And that's coming from a guy from prison.
Who read it?
It's not there.
Yeah.
But boy, they will swear to God. I've seen it. I've heard. No, you haven't. No, you haven't.
Like the member, the member that you hit up, that hit you up from, Sweden and stuff. He's a great brother. I love that guy to death. And when he hit me up, he just. He got out of the club because he had a heart attack, you know what I mean? And he just figured, he wasn't feeling healthy, and nobody wants to have a heart attack going down the road on a motorcycle. So he got out, but I'm thinking that a lot of the guys, most of the guys regret once they're out, and I've heard that from many of these guys, but then they took a look back at the club and how it's the direction it's going, and they go, man, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, it could have been 10 times worse for you down the road over something else, or the Sturgis t-shirts. You know, the one thing I've learned is if you're going to be in a club, do not be a part of the money of the t-shirts. Or else you're going to do him wrong, or he's going to do you wrong. One of you is going to get the other one really bad.
When you're doing the t-shirts, bro, it's like, wait a minute, I'm going to borrow this, I'll pay it back. And,
right.
you know, and that never happens. And then next thing you're in a trick bag, you know, hey, where the hell's all the money at?
Right.
Yeah, I would not never, ever want that job of the money, you know?
No. Or the treasurer, for that matter.
Yeah,
treasurers just get...
treasurer or secretary, I don't want to read. That's what I'm saying about all this corporate shit, you know? Then they had me when I was a Frisco member on the corporate thing. I would just sit there at those meetings, honest to God, and I was looking around for somebody with a I can blow my brain. But I couldn't believe it. I did it 3 times, Rick, and I got up and I said, I ain't doing it anymore. I can't do this.
Yeah, this isn't... That's office work, basically.
Right. So here's how you can really look at it. So like I told you before, every week the charter has a meeting. Every month the OM, the officer meeting. Then they have corporate meetings. Then they got world meetings. And all of a sudden you're like, man, when the fuck are all these meetings going to end? You know?
Yeah. When are we gonna have fun?
Yeah, that's what I've had members come up to me and say, when does it get fun?
Yeah.
I said, I don't know. I'm waiting.
So last night's phone call in Georgia, you know, the 2 black clubs that went at each other.
No, I didn't know about that.
Yeah,
I don't even follow that crap on.
Right. Well, I mean, it's been reported on YouTube and all that, but somebody called me from one of the clubs. All of their members have been charged with.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
Goodbye.